National Broadcasting Company. Now in its 7th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestones. Baseball's majesty. And baseball's magical moments. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today from Anaheim Stadium, it's the Kansas City Royals versus the California Angels. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Buick and your Buick dealer. The Great American Road belongs to Buick. By Miller Brewing Company, sole sponsor of the U.S. Olympic Training Centers. And by AC Delco, automotive parts that don't just fit, they match.
A baseball day so gorgeous it seems almost heaven sent, and why not? We're in the home of the Angels, the Big A in Anaheim. Hi, everybody. Bob Costas along with Tony Kubek. Last night here, Dan Petrie, who had been pitching in tough luck, outdueled Charlie Leibrandt. The Angels beat the Royals 1-0. A couple of streaks ended last night, and it wasn't good news for Kansas City. Their winning streak was stopped at 7. Meanwhile, in Texas, Jose Canseco's 2-run homer in the top of the 9th enabled the A's to come back and beat the Rangers and end their 6-game losing streak. And so now the Royals trail Oakland by 9 in the American League West. Let's go down to the field. Here's Tony.
All right, thank you, Bob. With George Brett down in the Royals dugout just prior to game time. George, a tough loss, 1-0 yesterday to Dan Petrie. Oakland wins 9 games down, and you've got another team between you and them, Minnesota. Impossible to catch them? I know it's only June.
I don't think it's impossible, Tony. Last week we won 7 in a row, beat Seattle 4 straight in Kansas City, and then Oakland came in town. And I think the farthest thing in their mind was being swept by us in Kansas City, and probably the farthest thing in our mind was sweeping them there. We beat them 3 straight. I think Oakland thinks we're a good team. I think we have a lot of respect for them. It's going to be tough, but if any team can do it, I think we can. We've proven in the past we're a good second-half club.
Your championship year under Dick Hauser, pitching was a big part of your ball club. You've lost Danny Jackson during the offseason. You lost Bud Black just recently. Will you have enough pitching to catch them?
I think so. Ted Power is one of the guys we got for Danny Jackson. Ted's just coming off 2 straight shutouts. We got a shortstop in the deal, Kurt Stillwell, who a lot of people are going to see today for the first time, and I think Kurt's going to be one of the great players in the American League in a few years. We brought up some people, Wes Montgomery. So our starters have done very, very well, with the exception of Charlie Leibrandt, and in his 9 losses, we've only scored him 14 runs. It's going to be tough to do, but I think our pitching's strong enough to carry us.
Bo Jackson, torn hamstring muscle. How much does his loss mean to this ball club?
Well, Bo is off to a great start. He improved so much since last year. He was hitting over 300 and playing outfield with reckless abandon. We're going to miss him, but so far we've been able to play without him.
All right.
Bob, was that good enough for you? And if not...
Very nice, George. Watch out for the whoopee cushion when you sit down today. It's Kubaza against McCaskill. We'll return to Anaheim in just a minute. Baseman in the American League West, but they do have a modest 3-game winning streak going, and this last time through their starting rotation, they've received good pitching. 27-year-old Kirk McCaskill, a 17-game winner for the division champion Angels of '86, plagued by elbow problems last year, spent 3 months on the disabled list. He goes to work against this lineup: Stillwell, Wilson, Brett in the DH spot, played first last night. Tardable in the cleanup slot. Seitzer at third. Buckner will play first against his old Angel teammates. Tabler in left field, unfamiliar position. McFarlane will catch. And Brad Wellman at second, 37-year-old Frank White sitting out the day game after the night game. McCaskill's numbers, although he has pitched better in his last half-dozen outings, he's got an ERA of 2.6.
Big pitch for him, Bob, is the curveball. And coming off the elbow surgery, the curve really hasn't been biting that well until his last outing, when he had a good strikeout game. There it is. Early in the ball game, what he does is he bounces a lot of breaking balls, trying to get the snap and try and find the proper speed.
A ball and a strike to Stillwell. You heard the plate ump Tim Welke bark, yes. It was a strike. Terry Cooney at first, Durwood Merrill at second, Joe Brinkman at third. Breaking ball is hit softly, but in a good spot. It's a leadoff hit for Stillwell. Watch it now. He's thinking about 2, and Armas didn't get there quickly enough. It's a double.
Since Stillwell's been hitting in that leadoff spot, John Wathan, the manager, moved Willie Wilson to the number 2 slot. This ball club's been 12 wins and 9 losses. He's had a good on-base average, but taking some base-on balls. And from the left side, he's a switch hitter. Armas was playing him toward left center field, and he is not a great runner, but you can see his quickness. He's meant a lot to this defense and offense of this ball club, Bob.
2 switch hitters at the top of the lineup. Here comes Willie Wilson.
And now Willie, who's not basically a full hitter. Royals have been scoring a little more runs coming off their homestand, but Willie may just try and drop a bunt down on his own, drag it to the right side.
You see Howell in close at third. And that's ball 1.
In the number 2 spot in your lineup, if you have a right-hand hitter, you love to have him be able to take a lot of pitches, protect the runner, and also shoot the ball to the right side. If you're left-handed, as Willie is at this point, to be able to pull the ball, which Willie does not do that well. So he may have the option of dragging it on his own.
Willie's hitting at .285, has a homer and 19 RBIs. Fouls it back.
Kansas City-Philadelphia World Series, where Phillies pitchers Adrian Garrett down at third base. They just pounded Willie Wilson inside with fastballs. They throw a lot more of it in the National League. That's just what McCaskill tried to do.
That was one of the keys to the Phillies beating the Royals, because Wilson had a great year in '80. His best ever, hit .326 with 230 hits, but they shut him down in the World Series. 1-2.
He's just pounding him inside. The Angels defensively have struggled. They've hurt their pitching staff a lot. They have the highest error total in the American League. Surprisingly, about 22 outfield errors at this point. But Devon White, but not with the knee surgery, just back, will change that, I believe. Center field, they've solidified that with him out there.
McCaskill's 1-2 to Willie Wilson. Misses. Another defensive change with Mark McLemore having an elbow problem. And he told me this morning it's improved. He threw a bit on the side before the game, but he's still on the DL. Johnny Ray is back at his old familiar second base spot and out of left field, at least for the time being. And he had a lot of trouble getting acclimated to the outfield.
Well, his range as opposed to McLemore, not that good.
It holds a 2-2. Stillwell, who led the game off with a broken bat double, is at second with nobody out.
I know. I just make it for fans.
McCaskill last season, you can see the outfield and the inner defense has swung around to left field. We were just talking about you'd like to have that left hand be able to pull the ball in this situation. They do not feel he'll pull McCaskill's fastball.
Red is on deck. And here's a bouncer that's going to get the job done. Ray throws him out, and Stillwell's at third with 1 down.
Interesting pitch selection, wasn't it? Willie Wilson kept fouling off fastballs inside. He just tried to bury him inside, and then he came with an off-speed breaking ball, allowing him to get the ball to the right side. Sometimes they feel that just about when the hitter's going to catch up to the fastball and maybe pull the string to get him way out in front and maybe get a strikeout. Didn't work.
That .314, just about George Brett's career mark. He's a .312 lifetime hitter. He's top 300 9 different times. Takes outside.
How many times in a career you'll see what George Brett did yesterday. Last inning, man on second base, tying run, took a called third strike. But Petrie was just outstanding. He looks like he's all the way back from the elbow surgery.
Angel infield will concede the run here in the first. 2-0 to Brett. Petrie, who had lost 2-1-0 decisions. One to Higuera of Milwaukee, another to his old teammate Jack Morris of the Tigers. Finally won 1-0 last night for Cookie Rojas, beating Charlie Lebrand in the process. Swing and a miss.
McCaskill last season had trouble in the first inning,
He has a
giving up
lot of
runs.
something like that. He goes around
Marcel Latchman has a little different routine for him. He warms up before a ball game as if he's pitching the first inning, including a national anthem that they fake to try and get the first inning jinx out of his system, settle him in. Oh my!
3-1.
And he stabs you and it goes in.
Tartable will be next. And he walks him. First and third, one out. And now here's Tartable outside Kansas City and maybe Seattle, where they saw him as a rookie. I'm not sure the word has gotten around on Danny Tartable, but he hit .309 last year with 34 home runs. He's at .292 with 12 dingers this time around. If he isn't a superstar already, you're looking at a future all-star caliber player.
Well, they said when he got out of the little ballpark in Seattle, he would no longer be a home run threat. He disproved that going into Kansas City last season, as you illustrated.
And Royal Stadium, one of the toughest places in the majors to hit home runs consistently.
Also remember, he was an infielder at one time. They tried to make him a second baseman. He and Dick Williams weren't seeing eye to eye on a lot of things. Pretty good trade for this ball club.
McCaskill works on 0-1. Was it ever a good trade? They sent the pitchers, Steve Shields, who has since moved on to the Yankees, Scott Bankhead, who may pan out someday, and Mike Kingery went over from the Royals organization to Seattle for Tartable. 2 balls and a strike.
Could there be a father-son combination who played in the major leagues different than Danny? Right-handed, strong, like a bull, and his father, Jose, left-handed, slapped the ball, ran like a deer.
Blade thin.
And Jose Jr. in the minor leagues. In fact, when Jose said, my dad is retired now, but he is kind of shepherding Jose Jr. Right-handed hitter, kind of a combination between me and my dad, he said, through the Seattle Mariners organization, playing an A-ball. John Watson loves to run, and you can't put it past him. If he thinks this is a double play situation, head in the count, he may start Brett. You don't know with John. He does unorthodox things.
He's not going. Tipped back into Darrell Miller's glove, 2-2. Remember, Watson was that rarity, a speedy catcher. Had 36 stolen bases a few years ago, and that's still a single-season Major League record for a catcher.
Ray Crocker Schalk's record.
First and third, one out. And the 2-2 pitch to Tartable. He got it!
You talk about painting the black for the outside corner with an explosive fastball, but this is what happens with a McCaskill. Danny doesn't like the pitch, but it's right where Darrell Miller sets up, and Welke gives him the call. That curveball in the back of these hitters' mind, because that is McCaskill's best pitch, and although he does not throw extremely hard after the surgery, the ball gets on you in a hurry when you got the curveball on your brain.
So now it's up to Seitzer, who's up to his old tricks, hitting .310, hit over 300 in every minor league stop. Then comes up last year, seemingly out of nowhere. That's .323 with 207 hits. Ball one.
Well, this was another one of the trouble spots in the lineup. Leadoff spot, Willie Wilson's on-base percentage wasn't that good, but the 5th spot, he tried so many people there last year and this year. Frank White tried it last year. They had Bell Boney this year, and Comedy Eisenreich. Seitzer has settled in. It's nice to have a guy like this who can hit second, get him 5th, get him down in the lineup.
If Seitzer prolongs the inning, Bill Buckner will bat. Red is at first, Stillwell at third. 2 down, top half of the first. There's Billy Buck.
Who hit over 300 last year for the Angels ball club when he came over from Boston.
Hitter's pitch coming here. McCaskill has to be careful. Got it on the corner. Put it in a good spot.
Well, it looks like Tim Welke, the home plate umpire, has got a nice strike zone on the outside part of the plate for the pitchers. The kind of pitch you can't reach, so you may see some of the Royals, if he keeps giving it to him, the right-handers getting up on the plate more so they can reach it.
The 2-1. Seitzer has occasional power, but he's a line drive type hitter with a good short stroke. And I guess without overly impressive physical tools, he fooled all the scouts, because a few years ago he was left completely unprotected, and any club in the majors could have plucked him off the Royals roster, out of their organization, and everybody passed. Luckily for KC. Full count.
Well, John Sherrill, the general manager, had one thing in the back of his mind. Every place he'd ever played, he'd hit 300 or above.
Well, you know, the same thing was true of Wade Boggs. A consistent 300 minor league hitter. 1 year, Boston, so unimpressed with him, left him unprotected. Anybody could have had him for 25 grand. Nobody took him. He slaps it the opposite way, but in comes Chili Davis to make the catch.
He got a good shot, didn't he?
So the Royals strand 2. McCaskill works out of it, and we'll be back to the Big A in a moment. 7-5 record to the mound to face this lineup. Downing the DH back in the leadoff spot. They had dropped into third. Ray, Joyner, Davis hits cleanup. Howell at third base. Devon White back off the knee surgery. Armas, Miller, and Schofield. And a strike to Downing.
And it'll be interesting to see how Tabler handles left field, which becomes the Sun field later on in the ball game. Against left-handers, Cookie Rojas has been leading off with Schofield.
Breaking ball just missed. The reason Schofield is hitting ninth today might be that he's 0 for 16 lifetime against Gubazov. And of course, Rojas has access to that information. This one is popped up. Let's see if it stays in. Buckner will have room, and he squeezes it.
Bill has been at first base a few other times so far this season. He says, I prefer playing an artificial surface. I know I'm going to get a true bounce. And he admits, he said, you know, my feet aren't as good as they once were, and footwork is much more important on the dirt and grass than on the artificial surface where the ball always bounds up.
Has tailed off to 298 after a torrid start. For the first month, he was the American League's leading hitter.
But what they have found through advanced scouting is that they want to pound him both ways inside with fastballs. He was feasting that first month and a half on off-speed stuff.
Gubazov has a good fastball, although not at the very top of the list, not ranking with the Goodens and the Clemens, people like that, but he'll throw it in the low 90s, 90, 91, with good movement on it.
A hard sinker. And he's got the hard slider, and he's starting to use his straight change more. This has been an adjustment, Bob, for the Royal staff. Remember, they had, when they were kids coming up, these Saberhagens, Jackson before he went to Cincinnati, Gubazov, Gary Blaylock. It's a different temperament. Now it's Frank Funk, and they've had to adjust to his training regimen, his style of wanting them to pitch.
Swung at a bad pitch and goes down on strikes.
That looked like the hard slider. The reason he doesn't strike out more, he's not basically a high ball pitcher, that riding fastball. His is more of a sinking fastball. This is a hard slider that he overthrew, but see how sharply it breaks now late.
A rarity there, because through his career, Ray has fanned only about once every 19 at-bats, one of the best ratios in the majors.
On day baseball here, you're not going to have the best background. There are not many people sitting out in left center field, but there are some white shirts. So a left-hander to right-hander, he's going to have to cut his swings down and really battle it.
The Angels have had a variety of problems. The ineffectiveness of Mike Witt, which is a puzzle. The injuries to Devon White and Mark McLemore. But you can't overlook Wally Joyner simply failing to do thus far what he did consistently his first 2 years. He hasn't had a homer in more than a month. Hit 34 last year and is sitting at 2 right now.
He is finding out, like Andre Dawson of the Cubs, the MVP, and George Bell, that when you are the pivotal hitter in any lineup, they're going to pitch around you. You're going to make the guy in front of you or the guys behind you beat them. And that's what's happening to Wally.
1-2. 2 out, nobody on. Last half of the first, no score. shallow left, an easy chance for Tabler. Didn't do it in classic fashion, kind of reaching out to the side. But he records the out, and we'll be back. Rube Goldberg at the game. Very inventive, and they've got the souvenir.
Pretty good tandem right there.
Hey, Tony, Billy Martin's making news again.
No, he didn't kick dirt on somebody else.
But for the first time in the history of the designated hitter rule, a pitcher is being used as the DH in the starting lineup. Not because they ran out of players, but in the starting lineup.
That should be a quiz. Leave it right there and see if some of our fans can guess which of the Yankee pitchers might he use.
Okay. One of their pitchers is in the starting lineup at Yankee Stadium today as the DH against the Orioles.
Wonder if he's come to bat yet. That game is starting the same time as ours.
Buckner, first pitch swinging in the top of the second, and Devon White disposes of him.
Devon White, the guy who, when he brought him up because they had Pettis, played right field, and Gene Mock said of him he's never seen right field played ever in his lifetime like Devon White. And you got to remember, Mock played with Jimmy Pierce, who was a great right fielder before he went to center.
White made a very rapid recovery from torn cartilage in his right knee, arthroscopic surgery. They thought he might be out as long as 8 weeks. Had the surgery May 7th and came back last night. Tigers jump on the Tribe for 2 in the first.
Tigers just 2 games back of the Yankees now. Won 3 in a row going in today.
Speaking of Cleveland, the former Indian Tabler takes a ball. They had more than 70,000 there last night for the Indians and the Tigers. I understand that a week from today with the Yankees in Cleveland, they've already sold 65,000 tickets.
They expect 200,000 plus for that weekend series.
Yes.
Bob DiBiasio, the PR director, told us the other day. I'll tell you, this right here is a very versatile man. He drove in over 80 runs last year for the Indians. He's DH, played first, third.
Breaking ball low.
We've talked about him playing left field today. One of the coaches, Eddie Napoleon, for the Kansas City Royals, was a Yankee manager at Oneonta, and when Tabler broke in under him, he was a center fielder. So the outfield is not foreign to him.
2-2. Tabler will do a lot of DHing. In terms of batting average, greatly superior to Balboni. He's been a 290 to 300 hitter consistently with the Indians. Doesn't have Balboni's power. Did he hold it? He did not. It was tipped back into Miller's glove, but he couldn't hold it, and Tabler stays up there.
Well, we talked about the 5th spot. That was such a troublesome spot. Remember, Miller, relatively new to catching. He's only caught a few years. In fact, he's played a lot of other positions more often than catch. Did some outfield. Considers himself a jack of all trades and felt that this organization really was giving up on him. Boone getting old, he's getting the work back there.
Off-speed breaking ball swung on and missed, and McCaskill eventually does fan Tabler. Kirk's second strikeout of the game.
Number 8, the catcher, Mike
McCaskill came back from his elbow surgery. There's the real yacker. You talk about a drop. He came back so quickly because he's got what they call a hockey mentality. Drafted by the National Hockey League after a great college career. But he's getting better as the arm gets stronger.
He was a hockey All-American at the University of Vermont. High draft choice of the Winnipeg Jets. Mike McFarlane wraps one to deep left, and it is off the fence. And he's going to hold with a single as Armas was all over the catcher. Boy, Tony made a great play, and the catcher McFarlane has a 370-foot single.
He's still got traces of that great arm he had when he was a member of that Oakland A's outfield with Murphy, Henderson, and he was in right. The ball is an absolute bullet. It comes about 18 inches from going out. Armas never missed a beat. One hop right there. He kept them out of scoring position. He is a little bit slimmer than he was last year. That's one of the reasons he battled his way back after being released by the Red Sox.
Brad Wellman takes a ball. All right, time's up. Who's
Oh,
the Yankee pitcher being used as a DH today?
Well, Billy had his pitchers hitting in spring training earlier this year, and that guy that came up from the National League, who's not too bad of a hitter, has got a chance.
You're right. It's Rick Rhoden, who has a lifetime batting average of .240 when with the Pirates, with 9 home runs for his career. So Rhoden is the Yankee DH today.
Mattingly out. Jack Clark from playing first base.
Fouled off.
Do you think some of those players on the bench are a little bit embarrassed? And remember when Casey Stengel managed the Yankees, when Tommy Byrne, a left-handed pitcher and hitter, or Don Larson pitched, they would bat 7th in the lineup, and sometimes Billy Martin and Jerry Coleman would bat 8th and 9th. So maybe Billy learned that trick from Casey, huh? Get your bench mat.
Joyner playing behind McFarlane at first. 2 outs, and the 1-1 pitch coming to Wellman. Low. Frank White, who is sitting out today, has gone 62 consecutive games from the end of last year through this point this season without making an error. And that ties his own Kansas City record for consecutive errorless games by a second baseman. That ball is out of play.
Well, that's part of John Wathan's plan. When he got the managerial job at the end of the year, he looked at some of the numbers late in the season. The pitching staff late in August, and they were still in contention, Bob, the Western Division. They had trouble. He thought they had too many innings, too many complete games, so he backed off on them. And also, Frank White, George Brett will DH some, as he is today, keep him out of the field, keep his players fresh for the pennant stretch, if there is one for them, August and September.
Another 2-2 pitch. If there is going to be a race, they've got to go into Oakland after they finish here. They play the A's 3 times beginning Tuesday, and they need to win at least 2 out of 3. They'll have Saberhagen, Lee Brandt, and today's starter Gubicza in the 3 games against the A's. This ball's lined to center. It drops in for a hit. McFarlane stops at second. Consecutive singles with 2 out, and it'll bring up Stillwell. The throw by Armas might very well have saved a run. If McFarlane gets a double, as you would expect with a ball hit off the wall, very good chance, even with his lack of speed, that he scores on a 2-out single if he gets any jump at all.
Heard George Brett talk about him in our pregame talk, and very slowly, Stillwell rounding out to one of the best all-around shortstops in the American League. In fact, we got 2 pretty good ones here with Dick Schofield and him. Stillwell made 4 errors so far this year. Tony Fernandez hurt a little bit with his knee and his throwing arm. Ozzie Bijen is outstanding with the White Sox also.
0-1 pitch. They checked down at third base to see if he went around, and the word is that he did.
Joe Brinkman, the crew chief down there. He changes speed well in his curveball. You can see he took a lot off it.
So he's got Stillwell in an 0-2 hole. Breaking ball is hit through the middle. McFarlane's going to be waved home. Whoops. White was thinking about making a quick throw and juggled the ball. The Royals have the lead at 1-0. 3 straight singles. The RBI for Stillwell. He's at first. Wellman makes it to third with 2 out.
Single RBI. Do not think they will give an error. They cannot anticipate he would have thrown the runner out at home plate. Another curveball. This time he doesn't bounce it. He lets it out over the plate. About mid-thigh high. I do not think the runner would have gone to third base on this, so they may give him an error because of that.
But McFarlane would have scored.
Yes.
Because the ball was hit fairly slowly and rolled for a long while before White could get to it. So even though he was charging hard, he didn't get there fast enough to truly have a crack at McFarlane at the plate.
And when a hitter's got 2 strikes on him, as Stillwell did, and there are 2 outs, as soon as he starts swinging, you start moving. So if he swings and misses, he's out anyway, so you get a much better jump in that kind of situation. Well trained. It's aggressive John Wathan style baseball. It's what he wanted to bring back to this team, something he thought that deserted them over the last few years, and that was team speed and team aggressiveness on the bases.
No error is charged on the play. And Wilson, who's 0 for 1, takes a fastball for a strike.
There it is. We mentioned earlier he has remedied the problem he had last year, giving up a lot of runs. 13 and 11 starts in the first inning last year, so he remedied that, but now he's having trouble in the second. The Angels have a chance before this year's over to have an outstanding starting staff. Petrie looks to be back. He had surgery. We talked about McCaskill. Witt has given him a couple of good ball games lately using his fastball more. Chuck Finley, the left-hander, a little up and down, but he's got a chance to be outstanding.
1-1 pitch to Willie Wilson. 2 balls and a strike, but here's an amazing fact. Mike Witt, who Don Sutton once called the second best pitcher I've ever teamed with, second only to Sandy Koufax. Now think about that. Mike Witt, more than $1 million a year, has won only 4 of his last 22 starts dating back to last year. Line drive, base hit. The Royals have another run. Stillwell's on his way to third, and Wilson's thinking about a double. Chili Davis's throw is offline. 2-0 Kansas City, second and third, 4 straight hits after 2 outs.
You know, it'll go unnoticed, but that base hit by Brad Wellman also, the number 9th hitter you were supposed to really bury, kept this thing going to allow Stillwell to drive in and run, and now Willie Wilson. And they tried to get the ball in on his fist, and Willie did get the barrel out. Remember, he buried him inside the first time up, or tried to. Not this time. Willie adjusted. Couldn't see Bob if he moved off the plate a little bit, or if he was just getting the hip out of the way and getting the barrel out faster. But he stuck with the pattern, perhaps one at bat too long. But give the credit to Willie Wilson for adjusting to him. You can see where Miller is set up. Inside, and Willie Wilson made an adjustment off last at bat.
So now Brett, who walked in the first, singles by McFarlane, Wellman, and Stillwell, then a double by Wilson.
I mean, they're going to put him on, I hope, aren't they? I haven't seen that indication yet. Here's where you got to be careful. There have been balks called when intentional passes have been given. They're going to walk Brett to load him up to get to the right-handed target.
And it's logical, with Brett being a left-handed batter, who has a good career history, by the way, against McCaskill. It's limited, but it's outstanding. He's had 7 at-bats, plus the walk earlier today, 5 hits against McCaskill. Still, it's a case of pick your poison, because now you've got to face the very dangerous Tartabull with the bases loaded, and a hit could break the game open.
Well, you've got a right-hander against a right-hander, and Tartabull more of a fastball hitter, so the percentages are there. It's interesting, though, and this is not picking on Willie Wilson. If you're thinking ahead a little bit, you say, hey, look, why don't I just stop at first base, make it first and third, and not take the bat out of George's hand? But if you're an aggressive base runner, you can't, you don't think about it. You say, get 2 if I can, get in scoring position. But they're not going to walk him if it's first and third, and George is going to get a whack at it. He's up there in the top 5 in RBIs.
Tartabull struck out his first time. And yet that brings up a question. If it actually would be to Kansas City's advantage to have Brett bat with first and third, then it would be to the Angels' advantage to walk him anyway, even if first base is occupied.
Bobby Cox did in the League Championship Series, didn't he? First base occupied, that was respect. As you said, I remember your word, and it was a great one, reverence. See, I do listen to some of the things you say.
Yeah, there's a difference between respect and reverence is what Cox showed toward George Brett in that championship series in '85.
Is high.
Ground ball to third. Howell's got it. He'll get the force himself. The Royals get 2. We move to the last of the second. 2-0 Kansas City.
defensively, and our pitchers were getting hit a little bit, and I thought of putting a punching bag in there, so that way instead of hitting the walls or kicking a water cooler, and their frustrations can be solved by just hitting the punching bag. And Mike Porter, general managers, will save a lot of money in water coolers and benches and new helmets. So that was the idea of it.
Cookie wants to take that further. He said, on one corner, I'm going to put my picture in case they don't like me. Then on the other one, if they get punched out by an umpire, I'll put an umpire's picture.
Here's Chili Davis in the last half of the second. Gubazaz staked to a 2-0 lead.
It's nothing new. Rene Latchman did that when he was managing up in Seattle. Saves the cost of light bulbs, I'll say that.
1-1. Chili's hitting .257.
Looked like the first changeup he's tried to throw. Still was a little hard, but with his motion and his delivery and all those elbows and kneecaps flying at you, you can get a changeup over, he'll be especially tough.
Struck him out to start the second.
Is this ball live downstairs? Most of the power pitchers that you see, whether it's Gooden or Clemens or Ryan or Scott, their fastballs are very live upstairs. That riding fastball. But his darts all over the place, down in the strike zone. I don't know if that's a slider, I guess. A hard slider. His fastball downstairs will do that once in a while. Sail in, tail away.
According to Wathan, one of the keys for Gubazaz is that he doesn't rattle as easily as he used to. Remember, at the age of 22, he was pitching in the playoffs for the Royals and in the World Series. When there was an error made behind him or a bloop hit, some form of adversity, he used to immediately begin to press, try to overpower people, throw his slider too hard. Now he's more within himself, gaining poise as he matures.
Frank Funk, the pitching coach, said the first thing I saw him in spring training, I said to him, were you always the hardest thrower on your team? He said, yeah. And he said, basically, he figured out, and they worked it out together, that Funk said that Gubazaz was always just a thrower. He never had to learn to pitch. He said, now, though, he's challenging hitters earlier in the count, not waiting until it's 2-2, 3-2. Saying, here it is, hit it right off the bat.
2-2 to Howell.
These were babies when they came up. I mean, you look at the Saberhagen, Danny Jackson when he came up, and Gubazaz. Some people say pitchers don't mature till their middle or late 20s.
Saberhagen's back on the beam. He's had several strong outings in succession. And as I mentioned, they'll have him for the first game of their series in Oakland on Tuesday.
Jack Howell is battling a terrific slump.
The payoff pitch, and he walked him. To back up what you said, Tony, he's 1 for 29, speaking of Jack Howell, coming into this game.
Should I tell you who analyzed his problem perfectly? Last night's game, Mrs. Jean Autry, Jackie. She said, I golf a little bit and taking lessons. She said, he's blocking out. And that's just about what he was doing. Keeping his right side, blocking out his swing. The hand and the barrel couldn't get through it. He's jamming himself. I said, you tell Jack? She said, no, letting it to the hitting instructor, Rick Downs.
Well, the Cowboy himself, Gene Autry, was blunt about a week or so ago. He said, we have a lousy club right now. Period. Lousy.
Well, they've got some older players that are kind of on the downside, past their primes, obviously, and some kids who are learning on a big league level. And basically, Cookie Rojas, a great fundamentalist, has to be frustrated, but he's the perfect man for this team, I think. He's a great teacher and a great strategist. Change up.
Bouncing ball to second. Wellman gets the force with the throw to Stillwell. Good play.
That's a place I believe where the Angels get hurt. They don't have a whole lot of team speed. And right there with Howell running, you get the lead runner, keep him out of scoring position. I'll tell you, when they get Bo Jackson back, they're going to have a pretty good bench, these Royals. I mean, Bo Jackson was the best player on the team when he went down with a severe hamstring tear.
Jackson's eligible to come off the DL on the 22nd of June.
Bill Buckner said an interesting thing to me yesterday before the game on Jackson. He said, if he improves next year and the year after, as he did since I've been here, and Buck's only been here a few weeks, he'll be the best player in baseball within 2 years. That's how great a talent he is.
Armas waves at one and misses. 0-1. Our producer John Filippelli tells us that Rick Rhoden has now had his first at-bat as the Yankee DH, and he grounded to third against the Orioles. So he's 0 for 1 in Billy Martin's experiment.
Ballard was the scheduled starter for Baltimore.
There goes the runner. Nope, he comes back.
You know what he did?
Bluff.
He read the pitch out. Is what he did. Pitch out was on by McFarlane, but Gubaza sped his delivery out. It's a difficult thing to teach pitchers. To use your normal delivery, at least for the initial move, so that the runner can't read it. When you're much quicker than your normal delivery, two things are happening. You're either pitching out or coming to first base. And it's difficult to teach a young pitcher that, especially a big, tall young pitcher like this. You got to believe John Watson knew something right there calling that pitch out, because he was going. That's why former catchers make such outstanding managers.
Gubaza just looks him back, stepping off the rubber.
Farley, of course, had the rotator cuff surgery. They've had a problem with that. Ed Hearn, they got him in the trade. He is still not played. It's been over a year after rotator cuff surgery.
Awaits the 1-1 pitch. Here it comes. And squibbed down to first. Buckner alone. And that'll do it. 2 complete in Anaheim. It's 2-0 Kansas City. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Singular, not plural, for the 2nd consecutive year. Champions of collegiate baseball. Stanford 9, Arizona State 4 today.
Wonder what the Toronto Blue Jays #1 draft choice did. A big third baseman, right-handed hitter, Ed Sprague Jr., the former major leaguer. Boy, he had a monstrous home run when I was watching the other day. Listen to Jim Cott.
Yeah. We move to the 3rd, and Seitzer takes a strike. He lined out to right to end the 1st. So congratulations to the Stanford Cardinal. 1-1.
Why singular? Would you explain that to me?
I wish I could.
Seitzer reminds me a lot, not in Bill, but in the late Harvey Keene, the way he hits. Fairly long stride, hits the ball in the right field, so it stands off the plate, strides into the ball like Harvey did.
Harvey, a lifetime 300 hitter, American League batting champion in 1959 when he hit over 350. Still 2-2. Go back to work. And the comebacker. That's all for Seitzer. While we have a chance, we remind you that again we'll select the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game along about the 8th or 9th inning. Here's Buckner, who leads active players in career hits. Look at that. It's like mental telepathy. I begin to say it, and the boys in the truck punch it up.
You're amazing, Kreska.
Ted Simmons playing out the string with the Atlanta Braves as a pinch hitter, occasional first baseman and catcher, is 2nd behind Buckner. He won't add to his total here. His foul pop caught by Howe, a little ice cream cone.
Sun's not very easy now on those high pop-ups. Not a cloud in the sky. Because even with the glasses down, he's looking through the webbing of his glove. Al Kaline did that. So many of the webbings of gloves now are completely closed. He's got an open webbing, little peephole, so to speak.
Tabler was a strikeout victim his first time up. Bats here with 2 out and nobody on and takes low. So some in-season changes with this Kansas City club. Bud Black departs. Tabler's brought over. Thad Bosley and Steve Balboni were cut loose. Bosley picked up by the Angel organization. Might be with the big club before long. He's at Edmonton now.
And an injury he's trying to get over. But that's another spot that really hurt the Royals for a while. They've hitting .217, their DHs. They scuffle in that area also, and they need run production. They haven't really, even their last year under Dick Hauser, they really scuffled along as far as scoring runs. It was mostly their pitching that got them over the humps.
Well, last year, Balboni hit 24 homers for them. He's consistently hit the long ball, somewhere between 25 and 30 each year, but he batted just .207.
Something he'd have a big home run here in that dome.
Toward the line, Chili Davis, but no play. Well, one thing Balboni will always be able to look back on regarding his career in Kansas City. In the championship year of '85, he had 36 home runs, and he got a big base hit in that 9th inning rally in Game 6 against the Cardinals. Remember, Clark and Porter misplayed his foul pop. They let it drop, and then Balboni singled to left. Called strike 3. Tabler is finished. McCaskill works a perfect third. That Balboni hit was part of the big rally. Royals came back seemingly from the dead, won Game 6, and the next night for the championship. We'll be right back. The Jays beat the Red Sox. Today, they're locked up at 3 in the 8th.
Hurst against Flanagan in that ball game scheduled.
Boddicker beat the Yankees last night despite a Winfield homer. Orioles with a 1-0 lead in the 3rd at Yankee Stadium today. And Cleveland comes back to tie that game after the Tigers took a 2-0 lead. They're in the 5th now.
Yes! Sparky's boy's been a surprise. It was Parrish 2 years ago. Gibson last year. Pitching. And of course, Sheridan Salazar did an excellent job platooning.
The catcher, Darrell Miller. 40-year-old Bob Boone gets the day game after a night game off. He went around 0-2. He'll be followed by Schofield and Downing. Last half of the 3rd, 2-0 Kansas City.
Right-handers are not crazy, even the good right-handers batting against Mark Gubicza. Because of that hard slider, and you start looking out for that, and he busts your bat in two with that fastball that runs in or sinks on you. He's a tough guy to catch because he's all over the place. You don't know what his fastball is going to do either.
Darrell Miller becomes strikeout victim number 3 for Gubicza. He's walked 1.
The back 9, number 22, to the shortstop, Jack Schofield.
So now up comes Schofield, who was 2 for 3 last night against Leibrandt, and is hitless in 16 career at-bats against Gubicza.
Was it you that asked Cookie Rojas if that punching bag, the heavy bag, was for Dick Schofield? He said no, but it would have been for his dad. I said, Ducky really was a redneck. He really would punch things and throw things. He said, but not this Schofield. He's very quiet. Marcel Latchman, pitching coach, right in front of your screen, and Cookie Rojas.
Gubicza's 1-1 pitch.
Schofield usually he's been a funny hitter. Times early in the year he's hits with power. And
slow roller. Here's Wellman from the outfield grass, and he's got him.
He made 2 nice plays now. Getting the lead runner in the last inning. A tough play and a close play to get Howell. Now way to his left.
He's replacing a man who owns 8 gold gloves. That's Frank White. Last night, White almost had his errorless string snapped. In the 6th inning, he booted a Johnny Ray grounder, but recovered and was able to just nip him at first base. So that kept the string alive at 62 straight without an error. Yes! And a strike to Downing. There's Frank White, who replaced Cookie Rojas as the Royals' second baseman.
That's 62 consecutive errorless games, ties the Royals' record.
Held by Frank White. He went around. That's 4 strikeouts for Gubazov, who has not allowed the Angels a hit through 3. And now here's a look back at a very special Olympic moment. Dugout. There's Brett Saberhagen getting all over the trainer, Mickey Cobb.
Sabes, who's won 8 ball games, cannot resist walking by a novelty shop and picking up either the squirt gun or the cone head. Perhaps next he will pick up a likeness of this pretty Greek face.
Speaking of cone heads, the former Royal, David Cone,
oh boy,
now with the Mets, not only is pitching very well, but he has his own cheering section, and they all show up with the elaborate cone head get-ups out in left field at Shea Stadium. Who were the characters made famous by Dan Aykroyd and Gene Curtin? Into the 4th, and McFarlane on the first pitch skies one to Devon White. I think they came from the planet Remulac.
Huh?
The father's name was Beldar. I forget the wife's name. Mrs. Beldar, thank you very much.
Interesting. I was, when I came out here, Midwest, I was hoping that I could get little tidbits like that to take back to my neighborhood in case they missed the cone heads.
And all you got was rattled around in your hotel room yesterday when that little earthquake hit. 5.2 on the Richter scale.
Yeah,
shook a few folks up.
40 miles north of here at the epicenter. I don't think I've ever experienced that. I thought I was having a little dizzy spell.
Wellman had a single in the midst of a 2-run second inning for Kansas City. McCaskill's ahead of him 0-2. And the pitch to the former Giant misses. You mentioned that McCaskill was an outstanding hockey player, college hockey's equivalent of the high. And now here's a look back at a very special Olympic moment. In the Royal dugout, there's Brett Saberhagen getting all over the trainer, Mickey Cobb.
Sabes, who's won 8 ball games, cannot resist walking by a novelty shop and picking up either the squirt gun or the cone head. Perhaps next he will pick up a likeness of this pretty Greek face.
Speaking of cone heads, the former Royal, David Cone,
oh boy,
now with the Mets, not only is pitching very well, but he has his own cheering section, and they all show up with the elaborate cone head get-ups out in left field at Shea Stadium. Who were the characters made famous by Dan Aykroyd and Gene Curtin? Into the 4th, and McFarlane on the first pitch skies one to Devon White. I think they came from the planet Remulac.
Huh?
The father's name was Beldar. I forget the wife's name. Mrs. Beldar, thank you very much.
Interesting. I was, when I came out here, Midwest, I was hoping that I could get little tidbits like that to take back to my neighborhood in case they missed the Coneheads.
And all you got was rattled around in your hotel room yesterday when that little earthquake hit. 5.2 on the Richter scale.
Yeah,
shook a few folks up.
40 miles north of you at the epicenter. I don't think I've ever experienced that. I thought I was having a little dizzy spell.
Wellman had a single in the midst of a 2-run second inning for Kansas City. McCaskill's ahead of him 0-2. And the pitch to the former Giant misses. You know, you mentioned that McCaskill was an outstanding hockey player. College hockey's equivalent of the Heisman is the Hobie Baker Award. And one year he was the runner-up for that designation.
Father was an outstanding hockey player, too. I believe he played in the NHL.
He strikes Wellman out.
That's been a big pitch for him. And some of those hitters from the Royals sitting on his breaking ball, the right-handers, he struck out a few already with a pitch right on the outside corner. They almost get frozen by it and swing too late, but he's really threaded that outside corner very well on right-handers.
Like Gubazai, he has 4 strikeouts. Stillwell has a pair of hits against him, a double and a single. The single drove in a run in the second.
Royals 11th in the American League in team ERA, but they're showing progress of lowering the earned run average. Or rather, the California Angels are. Royals are 5th. And they're creeping up fast with that pitching staff. And the Indians have really had exceptional starting pitching, the Cleveland Indians.
The 2-0 pitch is high.
It's been a transition for this ball club. You play so long for Gene Mock with his intensity. And Cookie a lot looser, a lot different style, tries things a little different like as every manager does.
A native of Havana, Cuba.
That was our big question last night. A walk right here. You saw around his neck in gold, C-U-Q-U-I, Cookie. There's no such word like that in Espanol. I don't know if somebody did it because it sounds that way phonetically. And we started looking through Spanish dictionaries and asking Hispanic broadcasters, what's the word for cookie? And you remember, I think. You don't remember.
But,
sorry,
but thanks for bringing it up. It was a fascinating little aside. Here's Wilson, who's grounded out and double.
Should always have a little filler while the guy is trotting down to first base after a walk.
We're in the top half of the 4th. 2-0 Royals. McCaskill to the belt and down to the plate and misses outside.
But then we see that keep it down.
Speaking of Rojas, he made the American League All-Star team 4 times in the early 70s as the Royals' second baseman, and was replaced around 1975, 76, somewhere in there, by the man who's held the spot ever since, Frank White.
Royals are 2nd in the league in bases stolen, just 4 behind the New York Yankees. That's why all the throws over. Something that Wathan has tried to reinstill into this ball club. Take some chances.
So that Roden?
2-0. Wathan at 38, among the major's youngest managers.
There's some very aware baseball fans somewhere near one of our field mics talking about Roden, and you're on a little chatter in the background. Is that a Royals player talking or a fan? I would think he's going to start him. If he gets thrown out, you don't want Brett leading off the next inning. There he goes.
He bluffs to go, and Wilson fouls it back.
He had Johnny Ray coming over and covering on that fastball to Willie Wilson. Breaking ball, chances are, due to shortstop covering, fastball, they don't feel that Wilson will pull it, would be the second baseman. So that false start by Stillwell had him out of position. There's Jamie Quirk, who someday has aspirations to be a coach and perhaps a manager. In fact, Whitey Herzog thought he should retire and offered him a managerial job in the Cardinals organization. The Royals desperate for catching. He's made himself a nice career.
This is a 2-1 pitch. The runner's going this time, and he'll have to come back.
McCaskill is quick to home plate. Or Sal Latchman has taught him to line into his delivery after the discernible stop. But you'd like to run on Darryl Miller and hope you get a curveball that might bounce in the dirt and get you in scoring position.
Stillwell, who walked with 2 out, gets back.
Kurt's only stolen 2 bases, been caught twice.
Now to Wilson. So Joyner moves behind Stillwell, who will automatically run with the pitch. There he goes, and here it comes. McCaskill can't get it. Schofield can. No play at second, so he throws across to take care of Wilson. And the Royals are history in the 4th. Still 2-0. And we're coming right back. Size video.
Is he left-handed? Yeah, that's why he's twirling with his right arm. Sherman Corbett. They didn't have a left-hander until they got him this year.
Last half of the 4th, Johnny Ray starts it against Gubazov. 1-1. In his second time at bat, Rick Rhoden had a sacrifice fly, and the Yankees tie the game against the Orioles 3-3. Rhoden serving as the Yankees' DH today. It's the first time in the history of the rule that a regular pitcher has started a game as the DH.
It's Ricky Henderson with an ankle problem. Mattingly out, so Jack Clark plays first base. Gubazov, we talked about the young left-hander Corbett, who had control problems in the minor league. Gubazov walked over 100 last year.
Strikes Ray out for the second time today.
And he's getting the ball inside on him also. A little quick slider.
First baseman, Wally Joyner.
Does that thing break blade? It's got that real tight rotation. You only see that little dot. It doesn't flutter up there, and that dot is, you can't see it until right when the ball's almost in the hitting area. It's too late to lay off it.
Last year, in addition to the 120 walks Gubazov yielded, a Kansas City record, he also threw 14 wild pitches. He's reduced the walks, but he's still on a high wild pitch pace. He's thrown 6 already this year, and that happens when he tries to overthrow that slider. He has that sinking action on the fastball. Tough pitches for a catcher to handle. Grounded to first, and Buckner outraces Joyner to the bag, and you can see that while Buckner is not a candidate for the Olympics, he is running a whole lot better than in the last couple of years when he was hobbling around with the high-top shoes.
No longer wearing his support hose. Or shoes, as you said.
Right fielder, Chili Davis.
With nobody on and 2 out, Chili Davis will take a crack at it.
Chili was telling me yesterday that he's going to get us season tickets. I said, well, we can't make all the games, so try to make as many as you can, because when you and Costa show up, I seem to hit so far this year. He said, even with the Giants, a few times you did us, I hit. I said, I'll leave Bob out here for you. You can see all the games, and I'll just go on my everyday travels and continue onward.
And he's got another base hit. So the charm holds for him. That's the first Angel hit off Gubazov.
Looked like the curveball. Took a little off. Wellman's been all over the field, right and left so far this year. Can't get this one. Angels not a very good base stealing team. They are third from the bottom behind Boston and Baltimore in stolen bases. And they're having difficulty hitting home runs. The only team with fewer home runs in the American League is the Boston Red Sox, which is the big surprise of the year. California goes in with just 32, Boston 26. You don't steal, you don't hit home runs, you can see why they have trouble scoring.
It's a lethal combination. No speed, no power.
Yeah.
2-0.
But they certainly expect their left-handed power to start showing pretty soon. You mentioned Joyner, just a couple home runs, and Howell has just tremendous power, and he just seems to be all tied up at the plate. But he's young.
Pretty good crowd, somewhere around 35,000 today on a beautiful sunny Saturday afternoon.
Bob, I've been watching Pat Tabler out in left field defensively, and I feel his philosophy that Eddie Napoleon has given him to play left field is just play deep and cut across. Look where he is. Now, Howell does have power, but almost everybody that comes up, he's like at the warning track.
He's going to keep it in front of him at all costs.
You betcha.
1 on, 2 out, and a 2-1 pitch from Gubazza to Howell, but first he chases Davis back. Misses the outside corner, 3-1.
So that's one time that a pitcher did not get the outside edge of the plate from Tim Welke. Right where McFarlane set up. It may have been the way McFarlane caught it and slapped it out of the strike zone instead of, a Carlton Fisk or a Bob Boone, and caress it inwardly. Fool an umpire. Is paying too much attention to Chili Davis. This guy's power at the bat, even though he's in a slump.
The 3-1 pitch is rifled right back at Gubazza, who gets his bearings and throws him out, and now let's see if he's hurt.
It looked like it hit his glove first and then may have popped up and hit something else. That ball was really rifled back at him. He looked stunned for a moment, but he would not rub anything. 3-1, hit like a bullet off just above the glove or heel of the glove, and then bounded around, hit a few other things.
Well, you'll miss a few heartbeats on that one.
What a play.
Back after these messages from your local station.
Going in, imagine what it is coming back. Looked like it hit him off the heel of the glove or above, and then caromed off several other things. Didn't appear to be hurt as he walked down, wouldn't let anybody even touch him, went right in the dugout.
Brett leading off in the 5th. He's been walked twice, once intentionally. One more look.
I still think that ball, after hitting the heel of his glove or wrist, may have bounced up and got him in under the chin. It's just instinctive, folks. Go get the ball no matter how badly you're hit.
So it's still 2-0 Kansas City. And here's a shot into center field for a base hit.
George is running better, too, this year. Is he going to try it? Nope. There's been somewhat of a raging controversy the last couple of years when Brett has been hurt. Who's the best hitter in the American League, Boggs or Mattingly? And I really feel a healthy George Brett is better than either. And that's not taking anything away from the other two. They're shooting at a short fence. Mattingly right field at times, Boggs left field. Brett hits in a big ballpark. Him and George has walked over 100 times, driven in over 100 runs, had a high slugging average, hit 390. He's just been hurt too much the last couple years.
Tartable. Keep this in mind. If you're under 47 years old, George Brett has the highest single-season batting average in your lifetime. The .390 in 1980 is the highest anybody has ever hit since Ted Williams' .406 in 1941.
George appears to be thinner. He said the muscle is just redistributed. He worked very hard. He has stolen 7 bases, hasn't been caught this year. McCaskill very aware of it.
Williams himself at .388 in 1957 when he beat Mickey Mantle out for the batting title, and Rod Carew hit .388 in 1977. That's as close anybody has come. 2-0 now to Tartabull. It gets by Darrell Miller to the screen. Brett to second with nobody out.
2-0 pass ball. Looked almost like it went through his webbing. McCaskill may have tried to overthrow, feeling 2 balls, no strikes. He's going to get a little extra on it. It just goes off the edge of the webbing of Darrell Miller's glove. So that removes the double play possibility. And I would think your number 4 hitter, big RBI guy, is going to be swinging if he likes the pitch.
Lays off. It's 3-1. Full count. This is the 3rd time today Tartabull has hit with a man in scoring position. Struck out in the 1st. Grounded to 3rd with the bases loaded after they'd walked Brett intentionally to end the rally in the 2nd. They settled for 2 and left the bases full. Brett at 2nd, nobody out. Top of the 5th, 2-0 Royals. And the 3-2 pitch.
McCaskill has thrown a lot of pitches, hasn't he? And they're not easy pitches. He doesn't have that long, fluid delivery. When you throw the curveball as hard as he does, he's up to 90, as you see.
And not even halfway through.
No.
He won't be here at the finish, folks. Tartabull makes him work some more.
McCaskill has given up 8 home runs so far this year, and the surprise to me is that 6 have been by right-handed hitters. You'd think with that breaking ball he would really cause more problems to right-handers, but I guess, you know, you always mix in the element of the hanging curveball, something he's had trouble with early part of the season, getting over the plate consistently.
I mean no disrespect here to Miller, but the guy he's replacing is one of the great receivers in recent history, Bob Boone. What does that do to the pitcher's thought process? Let you answer after this next pitch.
Well, I wouldn't doubt that the hardest worker in regard to Miller's progress as a catcher has been Bob Boone, as far as calling a series of pitches, knowing his pitchers, knowing the situation, when to pitch around, and he's helped him with mechanics, but there's maybe only so much ability to work with. He's played so many different places.
He walked it.
Oh, my. That was close.
Meanwhile, let's check with Gail Gardner in New York. She's got an update. Gail?
Thank you, Bob. As you mentioned earlier, future major leaguers in Omaha. This is the final out. The Stanford Cardinal wins the College World Series for the 2nd year in a row, defeating Arizona State 9-4. First time in 14 years that a college team has successfully defended its national title. Let's go back to Bob and Tony in Anaheim,
where the Royals have 2 on and nobody out for Kevin Seitzer, who's 0 for 2.
Stu Clyburn begins throwing. He's had a good year. Not much of a strikeout pitcher, as has their closer. He hasn't had a chance to close a lot of games out. Brian Harvey's become an outstanding, overpowering short reliever.
Seitzer looks to bunt, lays off, takes a strike. Donnie Moore, once the Angels closer, has a knee problem, latest in a series of injuries and illnesses for him. The Blue Jays beat the Red Sox again, and now Moore is at Palm Springs on a rehab assignment. He's pitched 4 times there and should be bound back for the big leagues fairly soon. Joyner creeping in, as is Howell. Seitzer shows the bunt and takes a ball.
This is a great guy to have. You got a 5-hitter, which you expect to be an RBI man, but you get this situation. Here's a fellow with terrific bat control. He can take 2 strikes if you want, and then you can even start 2 runners if you take the bunt off or let him hit away, and there are going to be a lot of gaps. You can see how shallow they are in the middle and tight at the corners. He may get the hit now. Nope.
That's a strike.
And that's always a tough play for the runner on second base when you bunt through. You can see where Schofield was behind George Brett, and you want to get such a good jump. You see him bunt through the ball as he did. You can get picked off in a hurry, but not Brett. He's a very good base runner.
So now let's see what Seitzer does with the count at 1-2. Buckner on deck. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Seitzer, one of those guys, a little bit like Wade Boggs. He does not fear hitting with 2 strikes. Just took a very close pitch.
Bounces one over the mound. Johnny Ray is there with Schofield, and Schofield picks it up.
He went out of the
Tartabull went out of the baseline, obviously. And the Royals now have runners at first and third.
Schofield got that ball just over the bag toward the first base side where he couldn't catch it and drag his foot across the bag.
Even if he had, it was such a high hopper, he might not have been able to complete the double play. He wanted to tag Tartabull, who made it very difficult, and was called out for leaving the base path.
I think he came out to discuss that with Derwin Merrill. I'm not sure what he was talking about. If he thought they should have called a double play on the other end. There was no interference involved. Left very peacefully, though.
Buckner's flied to center, fouled out to third. First and third, 1 out. And this one is popped up. They're not going to get the run home. Schofield has it in shallow center.
It's one of those where Billy Buck needs the punching bag instead of what he's going to do with his bat.
Watch him. Watch his reaction.
He got a pitch, looked down and away. John Watson was talking about Buckner before the game. He said, I'd heard he wasn't a team player and he was selfish. No, he said, he's been great here. He said, he's the biggest cheerleader we've got. He said, yeah, he does have a temper. He said, but we've kind of liked his makeup in this ball club. And I'm not believing what other people told me about him until he pulls it around here.
Tabler has struck out twice against McCaskill, takes a ball.
And he is a tough hombre, as they say in this part of the country, with men on base. He's always had a good eye. He's always had a perfect idea what he wants to do and look for in certain situations with the men on. I wonder if he'd be sitting on a breaking ball. Oh, that looked like fastball inside. Flash by Miller.
Here's the 1-0. Swing and a miss. Tabler comes to an excellent organization as he joins the Royals, but he might be the first star player in the last generation or so who wasn't absolutely delighted to leave Cleveland. The Tribe is finally a contender. They haven't finished any closer than 14 games out in a full season since 1959. This year they might be for real. Isn't that amazing? Outside of the strike season of '81, where they split the year in half, The closest they have been since 1959 is 14 out. Boy, those fans deserve a breakthrough eventually.
There sure is a change of atmosphere in that ball club. Doc Edwards, the new manager, is so relaxed.
We'll see him next week against the Yankees. Most of you will see the Padres and the Dodgers as the second half of the doubleheader. Here's the 1-2 pitch. Tony, I know you're going to be into it next Saturday in Cleveland. Not only will they have a crowd of better than 70,000 for the Yankees and Indians, but stay in the ballpark because the Beach Boys are going to have a concert right after the game. No extra charge. Buy your way into the park and see the Beach Boys, too.
I'd love to, but I'm taking a hike. I got to do a game on Sunday. Jay Bird, I know you'll be gone. You're going to be out in Hawaii for an affiliates meeting.
The 1-2 again. Off the outside edge.
Tabler, with a reputation of taking a base on balls, that's a pitch on several other hitters, has been called a strike by Welke. Got it!
A dubious hat trick for Tabler.
They're all almost out of the dugout. John Wathan thinking the ball was too low. You cannot tell from these dugouts if a ball's in or out, but you can't tell height, and Wathan just screamed on it, Welke.
McCaskill has 5 strikeouts. Tabler 3 times.
Belt in the armpits. Look low.
To Devon White, leading off in the last half of the 5th. He'll be followed by Armas and Miller. Little squibber to short. Stillwell guns him down.
Kurt comes from a pretty good pedigree. His father played in 61 and 62, an infielder with the old Washington Senators. Dad made him a switch hitter. At the age of 9 or 10, he was a natural right-hander.
So you played against his dad. Remember him?
But his dad basically came out of college. He was a bonus player, and the first game he ever played professionally was in the major leagues. He got sent back down. He had a collision with an outfielder, as I recall. He fractured his jaw and really never made it back up again.
0-1 to Armas. They checked down at first on that one. He didn't go. A ball and a strike. The plate umpire Welke and the first base umpire Cooney, who collaborated on that call, have something in common, and it regards Billy Martin. This ball is lined, and Stillwell has it. Soft liner caught by the shortstop. Earlier this year, Welke, the plate umpire, was the target of Martin's first dirt-kicking tirade, for which he wasn't suspended, just fined $300. A few years ago, I believe it was in Toronto, Cooney was working the plate, and that's perhaps Billy's most famous temper tantrum. I mean, he went at it for what seemed like 10 minutes, pulling his hair out and kicking and throwing dirt and firing his hat around. So each has been on the receiving end of one of Billy's fits. In the Cooney incident, Martin also bumped the ump, and he was suspended for that one. That goes back 5 or 6 years.
Gubicza getting some pitches up a little bit now. McFarlane did not like the breaking ball he just threw that was up in the strike zone to Darrell Miller. Wants him to throw strikes, get ahead in the count, 2-run lead. Know where in the lineup he is in case he forgot. We're talking about 2 outs in the 8th and 9th hitters now. A little reminder.
Down at third, and Seitzer has it. Gubicza sets them down in order in the 5th. Still 2-0 Kansas City. It's been that way since the top of the 2nd. We'll be right back. portion of the program, Tony, the trivia question. Who threw the pitch George Brett hit for the infamous Pine Tar home run at Yankee Stadium in 1983? Not only
enough characters involved in that thing. The cast of characters you could have written a Shakespearean play. Wasn't Cliff Johnson involved in that somewhere? Tim McClellan, I know, was the home plate umpire, as I recall.
Well, we'll not only tell you the answer, we'll show it to you by videotape in the next inning.
People running off, trying to hide the bat. Umpires scurrying all over the place. Lee McPhail, former league president, involved.
As we go to the top of the 6th, McFarlane, who has singled off the left field fence and flied to center, starts it against McCaskill. This will be Kirk's 104th pitch. Ball 1.
And perhaps before he even took the mound to start this inning, they were scurrying down in the Angels bullpen. In fact, coming off elbow surgery, you don't ever want to push him too far.
Clyburn had been throwing down there earlier. Chopper to third. Howell throws across the diamond and gets it. I tell you, sometimes I think our field mics are too good. You heard McFarlane's exclamation as he bounced that ball down to third. And it wasn't fit for family consumption.
Brad Woolman, second base.
Was that a real inside joke?
It was a real inside joke.
You're not going to let us in on?
Our producer, John Filippelli, said something that was so genuinely funny, I laughed spontaneously. Yes! Curveball for a strike to Wellman, who has singled and struck out.
I just turn on him and spit him out.
They talk about over 162 games, a bench and a bullpen when Bo Jackson does get back. And with the addition of Buckner, Tabler, the bench is going to be good. I guess the question for the Royals, if they're going to get back in it, what about the bullpen?
Really?
You know, Quisenberry somewhat got lost down there. He has let it be known that he wants to be traded, go to another organization, but that's a big contract to pick up. Farr has done a good job. Jerry Don Gleaton down there now, the left-hander, and the kid Montgomery. But will their bullpen be able to stand the duress of trying to catch a couple of teams ahead of them?
In the dirt, 2-2. Well, the thing about the Royals, in the past, when they've been so dominant in the American League West, their trademark was a second-half surge. They've won 6 American League West titles and never once took over first place for good any earlier than September 17th.
Except last year.
Swing and a miss. And McCaskill, now with 5, making 6 strikeouts.
Last year, near the end of the year, they went downward. The pitching staff, some felt, was wore out. That's why Frank Funk had the idea this year to go to a 4-man rotation with the rainouts and off days early and only let the starters go 6-7 innings and pick it up with the bullpen. They've since changed that pattern.
Stillwell has doubled, singled, and walked. The point I was making was that the Royals are used to late surges, being able to play around 500 ball and then put the pedal to the metal in August and September. But for the first time in a long time, the scenario has changed in the American League West. Instead of the usual slow pace, you had Oakland breaking out of the gate. And even with their recent 6-game losing streak and the Royals' just concluded 7-game winning streak, John Wathan is 9 games back.
You were also talking about a team back 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that had George Brett that was late 20s, early 30s, Frank White, right around 30. They were right in the prime of their career. Now you're talking about players who are 35, 34, 36, who perhaps will suffer through the dog days.
1-1 pitch. Wrapped over the bag and by Joyner. Extra bases for Stillwell, who has his 3rd hit of the day. Davis plays the carom. Stillwell's around second, thinking about 3. And he's in there.
That was dangerous.
With 2 out.
When you don't want to make the first or last out at third base, but that is aggressive style Wathan baseball. He says he wants you to do it. That kid's good. Good ball player right now. He's going to get better.
Davis had a little bit of trouble with the carom along the low fence. Watch it now. And that was all still well needed.
He saw that. He looked over his right shoulder right when he was going to hit the bag. Didn't even rely on Garrett, his third base coach. And when he glanced over his shoulder, saw the ball get away, he put another burst of speed on to go to third base.
Waiting for the ruling, but I'm guessing double and an error as Wilson takes high and outside. And that's what it is.
Yeah, with Willie, you can't take it for granted that he's just going to swing away either. McCaskill throws a lot of breaking balls, and Howell has to watch out for a bunt. 2 outs if he tries to beat it out to score him. And the Angels have already been hurt badly with runners on third. They've lost 2 ball games, to my knowledge, where once in extra innings, the winning run has been balked home. And so now, McCaskill not even going from the stretch.
You mentioned earlier, Tony, that the Angels have been hurt by faulty outfield defense. It might be expected with Devon White out of the lineup. That weakened them. He's just come back. And with Ray playing left field, an unfamiliar position. But how about Chili Davis? That was his 10th error.
You know, he's been running by balls, ground balls in the outfield all year long. That's what they keep telling me. Trying to make a play, doesn't get the glove down, or the ball gets under it.
Now to Wilson. Stillwell at third with 2 out.
You know, 2 outs, you say, to show you how the balk's being enforced and called so much, although the umpires have backed off and the pitchers have come along and learned how to handle a discernible stop. But if you have a short little pass ball and gets away from Darryl Miller on one of those curveballs, if you're pitching in the windup, the runner at third's got an extra 4 or 5 step lead where he can score easily. If you go from the stretch, you can't make it sometimes. See a better walking lead that he's getting.
Bounce it to short. Schofield knows he has to be quick with Wilson running, and he gets it. So Davis's error didn't hurt. It's still 2-zip. Schofield thinks about a bunt as we move to the last half of the 6th. Dick will be followed by Downing and Ray.
Trouble scoring. The Angels have scored just 45 runs in the last 16 games. It's less than 3 per game. The pattern continues for Cookie.
That's woeful. They won last night, but the only run they got came on a broken bat hit in the last half of the 8th by Brian Downing. A hit he himself called lucky. Check down at first. Nope. So the count is full. I don't know whether I've just happened to be in the park every time Leibrandt had his heart broken or not, but in my memory, Charlie Leibrandt's one of the unluckiest pitchers. This ball's laced to center, but Wilson's going to be there. And we'll come back to the Charlie Leibrandt saga after we check with Gail Gardner.
Thank you, Bob. Yankee Stadium. Yanks leading the O's 4-3. Bases loaded. Rookie Jay Buhner takes ex-Met Doug Sisk the opposite way. His first career grand slam. As the Yanks rally from a 3-0 deficit, they now lead 8-3. Let's go back to Bob and Tony in Anaheim.
That game, after a pitching switch, Jose Cruz came up to bat for Rick Rhoden. So Rhoden is out of the game as the designated hitter. A ball and a strike to Brian Downing, who's 0 for 2.
Billy Martin was talking about Jay Buhner. He said, you want to see a guy who reminds you of Hank Bauer? Just look at him in the way he plays.
Has a haircut about as short as Hank's, too. Here's the 2-1. Back to Leibrandt. In 1985, we did the playoffs, and Lee Brandt pitched a brilliant game against the Jays, Game 4 at Kansas City. Toronto rallied, beat him in the 9th. In the World Series, he pitched 2 masterpieces against the Cardinals. No victories to show for it. Goodbye, Brian Downing.
Johnny Ray.
What do you got for Gubicza? 6 strikeouts?
That's what I got. That last one was a nasty breaking pitch. His delivery fools these right-handed hitters. It's awfully difficult to keep the tailgate, to keep from stepping in the bucket, to use an old-fashioned baseball expression, if you're right-handed against this guy. So you don't know where the ball's going to go. He's just very conveniently wild.
He struck Ray out twice. I wonder if Johnny Ray has ever fanned 3 times in one game. I tend to doubt it. Let's see what Gubicza can do with him here. He falls behind 3-0.
Johnny Ray, being a veteran hitter, you'll try and find a pitching pattern from the guy you're facing. Johnny Ray's been pretty successful doing that, but against Gubicza, where he can miss the strike zone by 2 feet in any direction, you can't really sit on one pitch in one area.
3-2.
It looks like, and this is one of the things Frank Funk in spring training talked to Gubicza about, not only throwing more strikes early in the count, but speeding up his pace. Some of the Angels hitters earlier were trying to step out on him to slow him down a little bit. It's the old thing. Good quick pace, throw strikes, keep the ball down. If he does that, he's going to be very successful.
McFarlane with the sign, Gubicza with the pitch. Slow roller, second base. Wellman scoops it up, throws him out. They go down in order in the 6th. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. The answer to the question. Let's go back to July of 1983, and there's the victim, Goose Gossage. In the 9th inning at Yankee Stadium, the Goose will deliver. Brett goes deep on the high fastball, took it off his chin almost, and it looks like it's going to be a game-winning homer. But here comes Billy Martin. Pine tar's up too high, they say.
More than 18 inches.
They call him out. Look at Greg Nettles, pounds his hand into the glove, and here comes Brett, obviously intent on doing someone some great bodily harm.
That's Joe Brinkman. It's got George.
Dick Hauser. There's John Waffen, now the Royal manager, coming into the picture.
Where did that bat end up? Wasn't it George's friend, Barry Halpern, the great collector, that ended up with it? Or is it in the Hall of Fame?
Yes. Big curveball drops in there from McCaskill.
Yeah, the Goose and George have had some confrontations before. Remember the 98-mile-an-hour fastball? Red hitting the upper deck in Yankee Stadium off the Goose?
Hits this one through the box. He's got another base hit. He's 2 for 2 with a pair of walks. Came into the game hitting .314, and he's hiked that today.
You think that isn't a pretty good heritage of baseball players, him and his brother Kemmer? The left-hander is Kemmer, right near us. In fact, Bobby, the other brother, Jack, father who was here yesterday, they own 2 baseball franchises. Spokane, made a little money last year, and Riverside, right down the street from here.
Tartabull 0 for 2 with a walk. Breaking ball in there. Tartabull's knees buckled on that one.
Surprised they're pushing McCaskill this far. You know, Clyburn warming up the last 2 innings. He's thrown a lot of pitches, but he apparently keeps coming back in saying, I can handle it. To try and get McCaskill's curveball back, which he struggled with before his last 2 outings, this and the last one, Cookie Ross and Marcel Atchman had him almost like practicing the outfield, almost with a tennis racket. The same action on the curveball as hitting a serve with a tennis racket, coming over the top.
Another curve, swing and a miss, 1-2.
this Angels team has a chance to have a good second half. I mean, I think with the makeup of their pitching staff the way it is, Petrie and Witt starting to throw his fastball more, and the bullpen, perhaps a little more stability there, and the kids have got to get better. They've got some talent. They just need the experience.
Well, you know, Joyner is due for a hot streak, and they've got White back and McLemore on the way.
And Howell's got to start hitting more home runs. He's pretty much a natural slugger.
On the other hand, the lethargy might set in. You know, down in the basement, no chance to get back into it. Take some of the incentive away. Fastball is high.
I don't think the kids that Mike Port and the people you're signed will do that. I think they're very aggressive kids, the Whites and the McLemore, Schofield.
I hope you're right.
They're in transition, have been for a couple of years. Remember Reggie and DeCinces and Gritch and Carew? They've been changing gradually.
3-2 pitch. Brett is running. Here's a bouncing ball to Howell on the short hop. He throws Tartabull out at first. And Brett's at second with one down. The game of the week is brought to you by Toyota. There's quality, then there's Toyota quality. Who could ask for anything more?
That's John Wathen baseball. You've got your cleanup hitter up, and you start your runner to stay out of the double play. And he wouldn't have been a double play, but they may have gotten the lead runner if Brett isn't on the move.
They call him Duke, John Wathen.
In fact, he's got a picture of the Duke, John Wayne, right behind him in his locker room.
Wathen spent less than a full year as a minor league manager. He was at Omaha when Billy Gardner got the axe, and they called him up.
Brought some of his coaches with him. Frank Funk, the pitching coach, Adrian Garrett, people within the organization.
Of course, first they offered the job to Hal McRae, and when he declined, then they turned to Wathen. Seitzer. Kevin began the day hitting .310. He's gone 0 for 3 and lost 4 points.
Boy, he's changing speeds on his breaking ball very well today. The one right over the top that he'll throw to some left-handed hitters, a little harder. And he'll drop down a little bit to low 3/4 with a more of a sweeping curve and take something off as he just did.
Now let me ask you this. Why doesn't anybody ever bring a bat and ball to the beach? But they're always bringing beach balls to the ballpark.
He's
one of life's little puzzles.
He asked rhetorically.
Yes. And gratuitously. And the 0-2 pitch. Down the right field line is going to make the seats.
That's just another one of those breaks in the action, as they say, are fillers that you wish you could get back at times. Sometimes things are best left unsaid. Times as those.
My life is overloaded with regret. Brett at second, 1 out, top of the 7th. Didn't miss by much. With 2 out and nobody on in the second, the Royals got 4 straight hits. Singles by McFarlane, Wellman, and Stillwell, and a double by Wilson. And that's been it.
And after 2 out, perhaps McCaskill got a little careless, let the 8th and 9th hitters get away.
2-2 now to Seitzer. Greg Minton getting ready. Yeah, it was the 8th hitter McFarlane who started the rally. Wellman followed with a hit. And Stillwell and Wilson came through. They haven't dented McCaskill since. Up high, full count.
He's pretty much going now with the breaking ball, throwing the fastball. He's obviously lost a little bit throwing the fastball out of the strike zone and trying to get the hitters out with a curveball. See if he can do that when the count's full. Walked him. It's got to be his last hitter. Short and clear. Here comes Cookie.
McCaskill had struck out 6. That was his 3rd walk. Check it, his 4th. That's it.
He pitched a pretty darn good game, except the inning you just revamped for our fans. He just couldn't finish off with 2 outs, the 8th or 9th hitter. Kept it going for the leadoff guys.
So, exit McCaskill, enter Minton, and we'll step aside for just a moment. Major League Baseball may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. McCaskill is finished, trailing 2-0, and leaves 2 runners aboard as his responsibility as he's relieved by Minton.
And in a lot of areas, you see these little things in progress in the Cookie Rojas team. McCaskill keeps getting better. Minton, who spent some time in the disabled list this year, has the great sinker ball. While he was warming up, Buckner went back to Mike Lum, the hitting instructor who keeps a black book, what pitchers might throw in certain situations. He got a little scouting report.
Buckner's 0 for 3. Broke in with the Dodgers back in 1970. A career .292 hitter.
Another one of the fine major leaguer, the Dodger manager Tommy Lasorda, helped groom when he was managing in the Dodgers farm system. Looks like he was trying to go to left field all the way. The ball sinking and tailing away a little bit, resisting the temptation to pull it where it's the ground ball right side double play.
Top of the 7th. Royals trying to add to a 2-0 lead. Two on, 1 out, and the 1-1 pitch.
Minton pitching upstairs. Somewhat unlike him. His success comes when his pitch is down and down out of the strike zone. That sinker that drops late. The hitter can't lay off.
He had 4 consecutive strong seasons with the Giants not too long ago, where he saved between 20 and 25 games each year.
Long streak of innings where they couldn't hit the ball in the park on him. He was just not the overpowering Goose Gossage type reliever. Gary Lavelle, who was there with him, used to blow hitters away, but the sinker ball, you had to string together a bunch of singles to score. Like
his
that.
1-2 pitch, busted bat, roll it as short. Schofield gets the force onto first, and Buckner beats it there.
Not a wise throw by Johnny Ray. From the left side, as slow as it was. Because Johnny, remember, played his entire career at second till last year. They really got Johnny Ray when McLemore's elbow started bothering him last year. They were still in the pennant race, and they thought, we better get some insurance. Well, but begged, but throws this ball away, run scores.
Buckner at first, Brett at third with 2 down now, and here's Tabler, who's happy to see anybody other than McCaskill. He struck out all 3 times against the Angels starter.
And knowing that, in first and third, you try a trick play and double steal, hope that Darrell Miller might throw through and Brett can score. Most managers have a signal whether they want to throw through or put a play out.
Into shallow center, here comes Devon White with a late start, and it floats in front of him. On a little looper, the Royals increased their lead to 3-0.
A pitch upstairs, up and in. He shattered the bat, but if that ball is down, now he may have been trying to pitch him up and in, I don't know. But if that ball is down, it's a weak ground ball. It was right about belt high or just below, an inside part of the plate, almost the corner.
a few games after Carney Lansford foul-tipped the ball off his right shoulder earlier this week. Back in the starting lineup today, 1 for 3, and strike 1 on the sinker. 0-2. A single by Brett started the inning. He advanced on Tardivel's ground out. Seitzer then walked. Buckner grounded into a force, and with runners at first and third and 2 down, Tabler hit a flare into center field for an RBI single and a 3-0 Kansas City lead. Buckner at second, Tabler at first. Greg Minton past his peak, but looking to do something to extend his major league career.
Well, last
himself
year
to the Angels.
Yeah, last year they were struggling for people out of the bullpen. Had Jack Lazorko, who'd been somewhat of a career minor leaguer. Dwayne Bice. Bice still here, pitching very well, effective against left-handers, but they converted Brian Harvey. He throws hard with that great fork ball to be the stopper. But the starting rotation looks like it's going to be pretty good for the Angels. What will the middle and long relief look like? And they don't have a lot in their farm system. Most of the kids are here. Not in their higher minor leagues anyway.
Minton's 1-2 pitch.
Come on, Minton.
Tigers now pouring it on against the Indians, 11-3 in the 8th at Cleveland. Indians began the day a game back of the Yankees, who are beating the Orioles. The Tigers were 2 off the pace set by New York.
So young John Farrell has pitched well, came up last year for the Indians, had his trouble, and Jack Morris, who has struggled, he's 5-7 going in. Looks like he may end up picking up the win.
Buckner from second and Tabler from first will be running. 3-2 pitch coming to McFarland. And that's a fair ball, extra base hit. Buckner will score. The other runner also being waved home. Here comes the throw. It's cut off, and it's 5-0 as Tabler follows Buckner across the plate. Double by McFarlane, and they busted it open at 5-zip.
There have been some big base hits down at the tail end of the batting order. The second, we talked about McFarlane and Wellman getting something started. And now the McFarlane double after Tabler, the 7-hitter, got a base hit. Minton broke his bat. But he found that little slot between Howell and the third base line. Bill Buckner, who at one time was an outstanding runner. Now he struggles on in.
Big hill for the Angels to climb, especially considering the way Gubazza is pitching. This ball's hit into short center. White in, Ray out, and it's Johnny Ray who makes the catch to put an end to it. But the Royals chase McCaskill, score 3, lead 5-0, and here's another edition of Characters of the Game.
It's time for the 7th inning stretch.
Great fight, and then the Ms. Olympia competition. Are you into that stuff?
Only if Dr. Ferdy, the fight doctor, gets me some tickets. His voice got deep for doing that promo in New York. You know that?
No, I wasn't talking about the fight. I was talking about
well, I know.
the Ms. Olympia competition.
No, I don't think I will indulge my television set that day.
What a ringing endorsement. Gubazza with a strike to join her.
Is that bodybuilding or what is that?
That's bodybuilding, yeah. 0-2.
A very impressive outing by McCaskill, and also the man on the mound right now. Yeah, the Angels are not hitting, but boy, Gubas has had outstanding stuff. Throwing the sliders in good spots when he's needed, and the fastball's been moving all over the place. He really hasn't used many changeups that we can tell from up here. He's basically pitched with 2 pitches today.
They check.
Explosive.
That's it for Joyner.
That baby exploded.
7 strikeouts for Gubas.
There aren't too many sliders that are as quick and late breaking as Gubas does when he's on like he is today. How many times have we seen hitters right and left swing at that pitch that far to the strike zone? It's one of those. Either way, Wally could have gotten the call. Brinkman punched him out from third base.
Now it's Chili Davis, whose bouncer into right field is the only hit for the Angels.
They've had just 2 base runners. The walk to Howell and the fielder's choice to Von White, the base hit. It's been a powerful game for Mark Gubas.
He's in pursuit of his 8th victory against 5 defeats and leads 5-0 in the last half of the 7th.
Getting close to a strikeout high for the season. Strikeout high for the season was against Cleveland earlier with 8.
And he's just equaled it.
He is overmatching Angels hitters. He was earlier in the game, but now he's just going after them. That almost had a forkball action to it. Something off speed. He throws his changeup off his fastball.
Ball 1 to Howell. Gubas' career strikeout high is 11 against Seattle last season. 1-1 to Howell.
Well, they've got a good mixture. You take Gubas on Saberhagen, then you've got Bannister and Lieberman from the left side. So they've got that balance. If they alternate them, they show a team in a 3, or this is a 4-game series, something different. Bannister will go Monday. You get Ted Powell in there, 2 consecutive shutouts. It's a pretty good starting 5 right there.
Howell will pitch here tomorrow. Bannister to conclude the series Monday.
Kansas City's schedule right now is somewhat attractive. Play the Angels again. They play Seattle, play the White Sox, teams beneath them in their division. So if they're going to make some hay and have a run, now's a good time for them to do it.
With the 3 games at Oakland mixed in Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. They swept the A's earlier this week in Kansas City.
As George Brett said, psychologically, that was a big thing to show they could play with Oakland. Got him.
Howell is trotting down to first, thinking he has the walk. Not only is he struck out, he's embarrassed.
Struck out the side. He is getting even more powerful now. Gubas.
9 strikeouts for the day and a 1-hitter through 7. Pitch, which was ball 1 to Stillwell. He's 3 for 3 with a walk, has a single and a pair of doubles.
You hear that? Just extra.
You know, Major League players receive a lot of strange mail, and Minton, the man on the mound, has a good sense of humor. A few years ago, when he was with the Giants, he shared a letter he'd received during a slump. Swung at a bad pitch, and the letter read as follows: Candlestick Park reeks with the fetid stench of your foul doings. The air becomes more repellent each time you take the mound.
Obviously written by a Renaissance scholar.
This is fan mail, folks. You know, you're sitting by your locker, nice envelope, you open it up, think it's greetings from some supporter, and you pull that out. Nothing like a little psychological support before you go out to do battle.
Greg got a little usage out of his unabridged dictionary looking up some of the words.
Still 2-2 to Stillwell.
Over 30,000 people here today. Cincinnati owner talking about having her little sweetheart traded, talking about Stillwell. I mentioned that to Kurt before the game, and he said,
Here's a ball well hit.
Sure
Deep right. Might go. Out of here. He's 4 for 4 with 3 extra base hits.
and I'll tell you, if they don't give an error to the right fielder on that, he hit for the cycle, including a walk. That home run, and it's one of those things. It was one of those where the ball got away a little bit from Chili Davis when he went to third, but it was questionable whether he'd throw him out of third or not. So the official score judgment prevents him from getting the cycle. I'll tell you, when you make a trade like this, they wanted a solidified shortstop. That's been a trouble spot. You know, UL Washington played there. And since Freddie Patek, there have been a bundle of guys play shortstop for this ball club. And then you get the offense he's provided along with it.
Stillwell's the leadoff man, but he's got some pop. That was his 7th.
I asked Kurt about what Mrs. Schatz said about him. And he said, I learned one thing over there. The way to a woman's heart is through her dog. Old Schatzy. He said, I petted that dog so much, and she loved me for it.
You have truly taken leave of your senses. Wilson spanks one into center for a hit. Minton absorbing a royal beating.
Sinker baller comes in a little too strong, and it straightens out, and he pitches up. You see what happens. Brings out Cookie Rojas, and a battery of hits off Minton.
Give me the ball, says Cookie. The call goes out for Dwayne Bice. Exasperated sigh from Minton. And as Bice comes in, we'll break for this. To save money. There goes the charter airplane. Now we all have to swim to Seoul.
Oh,
I guess this is an actual event. America's Olympic swimming hopefuls gather for an important test. Gold medalist Matt Biondi and triple world record holder Janet Evans among the U.S. contingent that'll challenge some of the world's greatest national teams. The Sundown Swim to Seoul tomorrow on NBC, network of the Summer Olympic Games. These California girls are not picking up good vibrations from their angels today. Trailing 6-0. Bice is in, Brett is up, 2 for 2 with 2 walks.
see if George can handle the forkball from Bice, which has been very effective against left-handers if he throws it to him. George has handled about everything else today. The hitting instructor for the Royals, Mike Lum, has a lot of the same philosophies of the late Charlie Law. Lum really was one of the guys who replaced him with the White Sox under Tony La Russa. Minor league hitting instructor for the Royals, so he thinks a lot like Charlie, who thinks like George Brett. George says he does one thing. He's off the plate a little bit more again this year. He says, I think of hitting the ball hard up the middle at all times. If they pull the string, I'll be out in front and pull it. If they throw the ball over by me, I hit the long ball to left field.
George is connected for 11 homers this year.
But coming out of spring training, he had some trouble with that finger. He saw a hand specialist. He still got some kind of gadget to try and protect it. Like early on, they were DHing him rather than playing defensively.
The 3-1 pitch is grounded by Wally Joyner, who was off the bag. It's an extra base hit. Let's see if Wilson tries to score.
He was being waved and lost his footing. Garrett was waving him on, and then Willie stopped on his own. Well, often than not, you see the opposite. The guy run through a stop sign. Here he stopped when there was a go sign.
You have two Royal hitters having big days. Stillwell has 4 hits. This is Brett's 3rd. A double to go with 2 singles. He's also been walked twice, so he has a perfect day. As does Stillwell, 4 hits plus a walk.
Watch Willie. He picks up Garrett now, not needing a third base coach. He may have read that on his own and said, hey, why try it? Clean up better up.
And with nobody out. Tartable wallops one to left. Armas turns, makes the catch, and it'll be a sacrifice fly. Boy, that was a bullet going out there. The Royals are teeing off on the Angel bullpen.
On Brett's double in the corner prior to the bullet just hit by Danny Tartable. Look at Garrett. He's waving Willie Wilson, who picks up the ball from Chile, and he was still waving him on home. Willie just lost sight of him, but it worked anyway. But that's what John Watson wants his third base coach Garrett to instill in his base runners. We're going to take chances.
Seitzer's 0 for 3 with a walk. Brett is at second with 1 out. 2 more runs are home here in the 8th. 7-0.
You know, Boyce had a strange incident pitching in Tacoma a few years back to Greg Brock, now with Milwaukee. Brock then was a Dodger thing. Bice said, I threw the best fastball I've ever thrown in my life. Registered 93 on the radar gun. He broke his arm throwing it just above the elbow. And then he re-broke it again because it didn't heal right shortly after that. Talk about a guy that's banged around and had the persistence to stay in baseball and get his chances he did last year. There he is.
A decade in the minors. Some of the tiniest, dustiest towns where they have ball clubs. Finally worked his way to the big show. The 1-2 pitch. He strikes Seitzer out. Something's going on somewhere else. Gail Gardner will fill us in on it. Gail?
Thank you, Bob. At the Belmont today, risen star following in his father's footsteps, a winner by 15 lengths. The son of Secretariat with Eddie Delahousse aboard takes it in the 2nd fastest time in Belmont history. Risen star, winner of the Preakness, the Belmont, and the $1 million bonus. Let's go back to Anaheim.
Thanks, Gail. Billy Buck takes ball 1. So Risen Star got 2/3 of the Triple Crown. Winning colors starting it, of course, the Philly. Only the 3rd Philly ever to win the Kentucky Derby. Buckner's 0 for 4.
I wonder if Rob Murphy, the left-handed reliever from Cincinnati, had that race pegged. You ever seen his computerized deal that he sells to people? He's got a horse racing background and a grandfather called the Kentucky Derby. His mom raised horses, and he has a service he sells to people who want to invest in horses that is computerized and very successful.
So it's just a highbrow tout sheet.
No, more than that, pal.
Liner to right. Chili Davis makes the catch.
It's a high money-making computerized program.
He just doesn't hang around the track in a seedy jacket saying, hey, pal, want a winner? Come on over here. We'll be right back. Toronto over the Red Sox for the 2nd straight game, 4-3. Buhner's first career grand slam, the big blow. Baltimore had the early lead. Yankees have come back to lead 8-3 in the 8th. And Detroit finished the Indians 11-3.
A couple defensive changes here. Pacoda goes into short for Stillwell, and Eisenreich goes to right field for Tartable.
Gubazza with a 1-hitter going through 7, and he struck out 9. Struck out the side in the 7th.
Got 4 of the last 5 Angels hitters striking them out.
Number 32.
The low-hit game of Gubazza's career is a 3-hitter. He's done that 4 times, including once in April of this year against the Orioles. to Devon White. Gubicza trying for his 7th career shutout.
Looked like a little change-up. Frank Funk has really done a job with Gubicza specifically, talking him from spring training on, getting him to believe in his stuff, to throw more strikes, get ahead in the count. Like he really said, I'm very honest with him.
That's a foul ball.
He said, I told Gubicza that just by throwing strikes earlier in the count, you might not strike out as many, although he's got a big strikeout day today. He said, you're on really the edge of going into the Hall of Fame someday. He said, Cooperstown's waiting. He said, that's how good your stuff is if you'll only learn to pitch more and believe in yourself. That may be a far-fetched statement, but that's the kind of arm Gubicza has. There's Frank. Came through the Cleveland organization. He's with the glasses next to John Wathan. He gets him way back in the mid-50s. He was at Mayfield, Kentucky in the old Kitty League, now defunct.
The league, not the town.
No.
The 2-2. Didn't want anybody who had travel plans to Mayfield to think they'd close the whole town down. Buckner has to back up. Makes a good play. Gubicza covers, and they get Devon White.
They talk about Gubicza as perhaps now that Jackson's gone being the best athlete on the team. Buck backs up to get a little bit bigger hop, or he hobbles back rather than backing up. Gubicza's right there. Staying on the inside part of the bag so he didn't run across the path of the base runner.
Number 12, Jim Eppard.
Jim Eppard just called up from Edmonton. Primarily a first baseman. He's going to bat for Tony Armas. They've also used him in the outfield a little bit this past week. He led the Pacific Coast League at .341 last year.
He's had just 7 at-bats so far this year with a couple of base hits. Got an RBI, but he's over 2 pinch hitting.
Gubicza with a one-hitter going in the 8th, but there really wasn't that much suspense. The lone hit came as early as the 4th inning. Chili Davis's single.
Ground ball through the right side. Wasn't the hardest hit ball in this game for the Angels, but it found a hole.
This has been the year for pitchers to flirt with no-hitters, but come up just short.
Rick Swindell from Cleveland's gone into the 7th or 8th inning at least twice so far this year.
Well, all of these pitchers, Nolan Ryan, Ron Robinson, Doug Drabek, Odell Jones of the Brewers, Tom Browning of the Reds. Ground ball to second. Nice hop for Wellman. Throws Eppard, the pinch hitter, out. All the pitchers I just mentioned, 5 of them have gone to the 9th with no hitters. Robinson, of course, went 8 2/3 with a perfect game before Wallace Johnson of the Expos broke his heart with an opposite field single. And then you have others like Swindell or Dwight Gooden, who got to the 8th, Paul Kilgus with Texas, John Tudor, who actually left the game with the Cardinals after 6 or 7 innings with a no-hitter. They've come reasonably close, but no one's gotten one yet in '88.
You know how powerful this game has been, and you look at the 9 strikeouts, the ground balls, but really, they've hit just 1 ball on the fly to the outfield. That was Joyner in the first inning, who flied out to left fielder Pat Tabler. So that's been strikeouts, foul outs, a lot of ground ball outs.
This one's toward the hole. Wellman picks it up. From another time zone, he can't get it.
He almost made another outstanding play.
He was 3 strides onto the outfield grass. Maybe more than that.
Just barely got it in the webbing of the glove, and it's bang, bang, but he beats it out. You can see a ball that's away like this, although Miller does not have great running speed. He's still better than most catchers because he's relatively new to the position. But the ball away like that, hitting it the opposite way, got a decent jump out of the batter's box. Wellman almost turned a nice play. Gubicza's success today is no surprise to Schofield.
He still never had a hit against him. 0 for 2 today, 0 for 18 lifetime against Gubazov.
Check what I said. Schofield also hit a ball in the outfield. He hit one of the hardest hit balls, a line drive to center field in the 6th. Aside from that, they hit the ball. They hit the ball just like this, or struck out on the 5th and on the 8th.
So in the 8th, the Angels get their second hit, still looking for their first run. Form is 85-year-old Jimmy Reese, reputed to be the greatest fungo hitter in baseball history, as a special planed-down fungo bat with which he can send, even at his age, outfield flies with uncanny accuracy.
Says he's going to be 85, but some say he's 87. He literally used to hit batting practice to Gehrig and those guys when he played with them. Stand on the pitcher's mound, and that's how accurate he was. Hit the ball and hit batting practice. Pitcher's mound. Is that hard to believe? He also used to talk about the Babe's hot nickels trick.
Which was?
When he roomed with the Babe's luggage, so to speak. When he said the Babe was a practical joker, took a pair of tweezers, put a nickel in him, heat it with a match, and drop it out of hotel windows. And little snits like you used to come along and burn your little fingers. And the Babe would roar. A big kid, that's what the Babe was. That's what Jimmy says. Sherm Corbett has come on, and Chico Walker's gone out to left field for Tony Armas.
Tabler struck out 3 times against McCaskill. And then with Minton in the game, looped an RBI single to center in the 7th.
Frank Cassetti, who's our third base coach and also played with Ruth, used to talk about Ruth coming in after an all-night out, and of course they're all-day games, and said there's no way that he's going to play that day. Take a long nap in the trainer's room, come out, shave, put a hitting exhibition on, put his talcum powder on, and became superhuman by game time.
I didn't know the Babe was such a stickler about personal grooming. He'd always lather up before a contest, huh?
And before also.
He was well lathered in every sense. This ball's hit on the line to center, and Devon White makes the catch.
The left-hander they thought they were going to come out of spring training with to bolster the bullpen was a kid named DeMichael, who had a nice spring. They thought he wasn't ready yet. They went with all right-handers till they called up Sherm Corbett, a non-roster player.
Here's the catcher, McFarlane, who's had a couple of big hits. His 2-out single started the 2-run second. And then his 2-out double drove home 2 in the 7th as the Royals put the game on ice. Foul ball. Top half of the ninth, 7 runs on 13 hits, no errors for the Royals. No runs, 2 hits, and an error for California. Out of play, and if you're just joining us, the error is interesting because it came on a double in the 6th inning by Kurt Stillwell down the right field line, and Chili Davis had just a little trouble with the carom, juggled it for a split second. Stillwell kept on going to third. Conceivably, it could have been scored as a triple instead of a double and an error. McFarlane strikes out. If it had been scored a triple, Stillwell would have the cycle.
Gubaz's game, and McFarlane's had a big part of it, calling that ball game for him. The young catcher, first year. Gubaz and McFarlane have not yet allowed an Angel to get to second base in this game.
Well, Baltimore made it close, but they succumb 8-6 at Yankee Stadium.
Candelario was the scheduled starter. I wonder how he threw the ball today. Muscle problem above his elbow. He's had to start since then. Roden, who's had some problems, been DL. Tommy John with his age. Brigetti struggling more than not. bad is the ankle of Ricky Henderson? Randolph out of the lineup last night. He's had wrist problems all year long.
All questions the Yankees are going to have to answer. Season isn't even to the halfway point.
Pretty good running fastball right there by Corbin.
With Detroit's win over Cleveland, the Yankees now lead both the Tigers and the Indians by 2 in the AL East. Serves this one into right, and it drops in front of Chili Davis. It's Wellman's second hit of the day. In the American League West, Oakland plays at Texas tonight. They began the day 7 up on the Twins and 9 ahead of Kansas City. Texas is 10 back.
Steve Ontiveros is scheduled to go for Oakland against Jose Guzman for the Rangers. Very quietly, Viola picked up 9 wins. He won 9 in a row since his opening season loss.
Well, here's the new shortstop, Pacoda, who replaced Stillwell in the last inning. This would have been Kurt's slot in the order, and he could have taken a crack at a 5-hit day. He'll be content with 2 doubles, a single, his 7th home run, and a walk.
Well, the 2 shortstops, Schofield and Stillwell, the only 2 of these 2 lineups who played in every ball game for their respective teams. So when you get a chance after a night game last night, an early start today, we're out here early, the Royals didn't take batting practice. You get a couple innings rest, you get it for your skill position players.
Line drive into right center field. It's in there. Wellman stops at second. That's the 15th Kansas City hit. But you won't catch Pacoda getting cocky about it. You may have heard the story last year where he went 4 for 4 on May 13th for the Royals, and on May 14th they sent him to Omaha. Thanks, pal. 4 hits. Here's a ticket to the minors.
Bob Schaefer, the first base coach. Schaefer, the man who, with this crew, the Brinkman crew, Wathan and the coaching staff with Schaefer were in a restaurant. Wathan bought him a drink. Schaefer said to the waitress, put a carrot in each one of those drinks.
Perhaps I am a bit slow on the uptake, but what is the significance of that?
Didn't your mommy tell you as a kid, eat carrots for your eyesight? We're not going to explain that one
yes.
to you. You are in bad trouble. Needless to say, the umpires chuckled. It's the old line. You ever see a rabbit with glasses?
That bugs me. 1 and 2. Or make it strike 3. You see, you've confused me so completely. Wilson strikes out. Gubazar heads back to the mound with a 2-hitter trying to finish the shutout, and we'll get our bearings in return. Gubazar with a 7-0 lead. Downing, Ray, and Joyner. Bouncer to short. Pacoda boots it. Whirls around and throws it away.
So it's 2 errors, probably.
Not only does he place Gubazar's shutout in jeopardy, he might have beamed a couple of teammates as he gunned it right into the Royal dugout.
So the Angels finally get a runner to second base. Look out.
That was ugly.
That position has not made many errors, as we illustrated before. With Stillwell playing all the games, having made just 4. I'll say one thing, he had a lot on the throw. Give him just 1 error, so I guess what they're doing is they're giving Downing a base hit, which...
No. I guess they're saying that even after kicking it, had the throw been on line, he would have gotten Downing, so it's a 2-base throwing error.
Well, shouldn't it be an error for allowing a base hit, 1, and an error for allowing to get to second base?
That's the way I would have scored it. 2 errors.
I thought I just said that.
But I'm not in charge here, as has been evident from the outset. Rays 0 for 3.
appeared it's two different plays. 1E for allowing him to get the first, 2E for him to go to second. That's why, but it's the official score got one down. So
another chance. He's got this one cleanly. One out in the ninth.
You know, you talk about classic pitchers' deliveries, and, you know, we've talked so much about lower body action. You read Tom Seaver's book, The Science of Pitching It All, and with that lower knee touching the ground, you look at the longevity of people like Nolan Ryan, lower body, Jerry Kuzman, who pitched almost 20 years. That's Gubiza. You look at his right knee, and it's almost like Tom Seaver, all dirty, and he drags it along the ground and throws a lot with his lower body. And then that riding fastball like Seaver upstairs. Takes a lot of strain off the arm. The pitchers who stand straight up, land on that stiff front leg, they recoil. Watch Gubiza's right knee. He didn't quite touch the ground, but you can see the dirt on his right knee where it does more often than not.
Grounded to second. Wellman. He's an out away from the shutout, but a base hit would spoil it. Downing at third with two away.
You talk about some defensive swings, the way his fastball is moving and the slider's biting. A lot of defensive angel swings today, just trying to really hit the ball and put it in play. And even at that, they can't hit it on the meat part of the bat, the end, the fist.
So here's a big moment for Gubiza. If he can get Davis, it'd be the low-hit game of his career, the best he's ever done prior to this, a three-hitter. From the stretch, ball one.
Top thing about Mark Gubiza is later on, as something is lost from his fastball, then it starts moving more. I mean, the velocity when he's in the low 90s straightens things out and it's still lively, but once he takes the edge off, ooh.
1-1. Remember, Gubiza is not yet 26 years old. He's always been a workhorse type kid, made 35 starts, pitched almost 250 innings last year, but couldn't win consistently. He was 13 and 18. But this year, we may be seeing the emergence of Gubiza as a true big league pitcher. The beginning of a long stretch as a consistent winner. That got a piece of McFarlane, the catcher.
And what is Saberhagen? 24-25. Saberhagen had the great first half last year. Pitched in that World Series when he was, what, 20, 21 years old. Lee Brandt, pretty much the veteran on this staff. Although Bannister's, what, 33 or 34, but he's become a different pitcher. Not the power pitcher as much now.
Gubiza, who is fan 9, is a strike away from the shutout. And it's popped up. Sights are at third. What a day for Mark Gubiza. He allows 2 hits. Neither was hit hard. Each was a bouncer to the right side of the infield. He strikes out 9. He goes the distance for his 8th win. And the Royals take it 7-0. Brett had 3 hits. Stillwell 4, including a home run.
With the game-winning RBI.
The Major League Baseball Game of the Week has been brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft, cold filtered draft beer. It's as real as it gets. By Norelco electric razors for a close and comfortable shave. By Texaco, star of the American Road. And by today's Howard Johnson. We're changing a lot of minds. And we'll be back after these messages from your local station.
Observe the posted speed limits and drive safely on your way home.
Hits, including a homer, and of course Mark Gubiza, who goes the distance with a 2-hitter. So Miller Lite is happy to present a check for $1,000 in the names of Kurt Stillwell and Mark Gubiza to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. Bob Costas and Tony Kubek back at the Big A in Anaheim. And Tony, a happy Mark Gubiza down on the field. You take it.
Mark, I know you've struck out more in a ball game, but have you ever had such lively stuff? The slider early and the fastball just was outstanding.
Yeah, I was able to keep
my fastball sinking away, which made my slider pretty effective when I came inside with it. That way I kept him off balance the whole time.
What about Frank Funk, your new pitching coach? You, as a baby, so to speak, had Gary Blaylock here. He helped you along. Funk is a little different, but he told you some things in spring training. He's made a big impression.
Yeah, I think he looked over my films a lot this winter, and he said if I can just stay within myself, though, about 85 to 90% of my ability out there, I'll be all right, because sometimes I try to throw too hard and then I'm not around the strike zone. So he said that if I can win to stay within myself, I'll be able to put more strikes and be more effective.
Mark, this is Bob. You know, a lot of people have seen you pitch for a number of years because as a very young man, you were in the spotlight pitching in the playoffs and in the World Series in '85, and pretty effectively. But at that point, I guess it was fair to say you were more a thrower than a complete big league pitcher.
I think so. Right now, if you look at my walks, I'm down a little bit more than last year. I wish I was a little bit less, but I'm been around the strike zone a lot more, and I'm getting some calls when, the borderline strikes right now, which makes the job easier on the umpires.
Mark, how about having some stability at shortstop behind you? And, of course, Frank didn't play, but you had a good job from your second baseman, Wellman. But having Kurt Stillwell, who had a good day offensively, but, boy, he's become an outstanding all-around player.
Yeah, he does. With the bat, he's done an outstanding job, but what's been overlooked is his fielding ability. Every time he's out there, he turns double plays, makes the key plays. He came through with a couple of high choppers today that were tough plays in between hops, and he made the plays that kept me out there.
Since the late Dick Hauser, you've had several managers. John Watson, a former teammate. Any differences, Watson and some of the others?
Well, I think right now Duke's really behind me. He's in my corner. He called me this winter and said, I really think you can win 15 to 20 games for us this year if you go out there and stay within yourself. And I remember when he called me a lot, you had some pretty good games with him catching for me, and he always had faith in me. And right now he's shown a lot of faith in me, let me stay out there for a long time in the games.
It's kind of nice to see a healthy George Brett at this point of the year, and if he stays healthy all year long, looks like you can have a little more pop in that lineup.
I think so. With George out there, you can always count on some hits, and Bo's coming through, and Bo was doing real good until he got hurt. So if we can just keep above water here until Bo comes back, we're going to be really tough to beat.
Mark, this was your second complete game of the year. I would guess this was an ideal day to go the distance. Low 70s, a little bit of a breeze.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day out here today. I came in early. It looked like it was going to rain, but being a Southern California native of I am right now, but I was just glad it cleared up, and you can't ask for a better day than today.
Mark, we're running short of time. Any quick comments on the young catcher Mike McFarlane today?
He called an outstanding game. He mixed in some good changeup for me. Threw some effective ones that kept him off balance a little bit better, and he blocked a lot of tough sliders, so I really tip my hat off to him.
Mark, congratulations, and maybe if your teammates do some good when you cruise into Oakland in a few days, you'll find yourselves back in the race.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to my start up there, that's for sure.
Mark Gubicza pitched a two-hitter today, and who, along with Kurt Stillwell, is the co-MVP. Tony, I have to fulfill an obligation here. We'd like to say a happy 28th birthday to Andy Frew in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's the brother of one of our production staff, Lou Frew. Andy, Lou hopes you like the present because she says that's all you're getting. And that's all you're getting from us, too, folks.
What a wine.
So long for now. John Filippelli was our producer. Andy Rosenberg, our director. Our thanks, as always, to Steve Horn up in the booth. And for Tony Kubek, I'm Bob Costas. Doubleheader next week. So long, everybody.
This has been a presentation of NBC Sports, proud to be the network of the games of the 24th Olympiad.